think when we learn to ask questions that are more comfortable and resonate more in our soul, that it flows easier.
I think it's so important I think you're right, so important to be genuine with your questions. Even if if somebody's helped you with wording, there's a way, like I think my favorite way to ask it, like I remember one of my favorite things to do is, back in the home party days when somebody would come over to place their order and we'd be sitting there just talking. And it's the same digitally now when I do it either way. Or even now when I'm in person talking to somebody, I'll say, have you ever thought about doing something like this? And the reason why I like to say something like this is because I like to start a conversation. And maybe they never thought about doing Tupperware, so they would just say no if I said Tupperware. Maybe to your point, they think what I do with Tupperware is something different than what I actually do, or they have a different perception of it, right? Hello, and welcome to TuppTalk. I am here today with Miss Barbara Rossi, one of the leaders on my Tupperware team. And we thought today would be fun to come and just talk about, all things Tupperware, all things fun. And I have some fun questions for her that I thought the world just might like to hear. So Barbara, maybe first give everybody just like a 30-second intro on you. Like, who are you? Tell us a little bit about you.
Hey, I'm Barbara Rossi. As Kirstin said, I'm on the Rock On Tupperware team, #1 in the world. I am a 4-star director right now and loving Tupperware. Here we go. 30 seconds.
So here's some questions for you. What initially drew you to Tupperware, and how did you get started in the business?
So, my family had Tupperware growing up, so I was familiar with the brand, and I had built a home, and we wanted to redo my pantry. I wanted to redo the pantry. So, I attended a party, and she talked me into joining, so I would get modular mates from my pantry.
Okay, so how did you get started? So that's how you signed up. How did you get started in business? Well,
Just like that?
I mean, you signed up, right? So you signed up to get some modular mates at a discount. But what prompted you to actually start kind of running a business? So signing up for a discount is one thing. Going, hey, what do I think about this as a business is kind of another. So you were drawn in by modular mates in your pantry, obviously, right? But then what prompted you to kind of start a business out of it? Or what tickled your fancy?
My fancy got tickled when when recognition started coming out, and I was putting in a whole bunch of orders and getting the modular mates, and then I was talking to some friends and telling them, and then they were ordering some things, and then suddenly hey, Barbara Rossi's name is in lights and she's getting recognition, and I just ate that up. That tickled my fancy. And so the recognition really drew me in, and then I saw a window of, I could really do this. This is easy, this is fun. And so I just went with it, and before I knew it, I was growing through the ranks.
Yes, you were, I remember. Okay, so walk us through a little bit through your journey of becoming a leader in Tupperware. So initially you signed up, like you said, to get modular mates at a discount, saw recognition, maybe saw that you probably had a party run for you or some sort of whatever, and probably saw that it wasn't that hard and maybe you could do it. But that's one thing, and that's one piece of this business. And obviously you started doing it, and it was, doing it well, obviously. If you were showing up in recognition, you're doing something well. So what, walk us through your journey of starting to become a leader, and maybe what drew you to that, or was it accidental, or kind of what did that process look like, for you?
So I think part of growing, as into the leadership role was, when I do something, I want to do it all the way. So I don't want to half do something. And so if I was basically going for something that needed 3 recruits, I was going to get 3 recruits and maybe 4. I was always going to do a little bit more than somebody else was. That was my main motivation, my like self motivation with that was just to do better than the other person.
Sure.
And so I would just keep pushing and doing those type
So
steps.
what do you feel like, so when you remember back to like, you're working on stepping up to leader, you're working on recruiting, you're working on, I mean, obviously we both know recruiting is the answer, right? So building,
Right.
building a team starts with like, who might want to do this with me, right? What do you remember when you think back to that? Because, like, you know, I mean, I've had you for a while now on the team, so some of the stuff it's been a hot minute since you started. But I know that there's a lot of people that could relate to your journey, and I think for us as leaders, sometimes it's I try often to put myself in the place of things and remember back to what I felt like then, and sometimes I have moments of like, oh yeah, I'm already over here, but I forgot what this felt like, or I need to remember what this felt like as I'm training people and bringing more people up, and as people are watching this, I want them to like help. I want them to like walk through this journey with you a little bit, because this is going to help them on their journey. So, what do you remember? What challenges do you remember facing? Do you remember as you were kind of coming up through, like, where do you hit some roadblocks? Because the reality is, the path to success is not a straight and narrow path, and it doesn't go straight up. I mean, there are parts of it, obviously, that go straight up, and you definitely moved quickly. But even for somebody who moves quickly, it's not all sunshine and rainbows always. There's challenges, right? Like, and you got to figure out how to, the ones that rise, figure out a way through the challenges. So when you think back to that, what do you remember your challenges being? Do you remember?
That was a lot. So I remember,
Sorry, I know that was a lot of words.
I know, I'm like, which question do I answer first?
No, just be whatever.
Yeah. So there were a lot of challenges, and what you touched on, you said something about like when you were first recruiting and growing, and it brought me back to when I wanted to build the team. I was reaching out to people that I also knew that had like a entrepreneur spirit, and kind of I was in a couple of circles with those people. So I was talking with those people, and I always remember telling them, I'm just a couple of weeks ahead of you, or I'm just a couple of months ahead of you. And that was something that really resonated, I think, with the people that were there. It's like, I haven't been doing this for 25 years, and I'm just telling you what to do. Like, let's go through this journey together. Let's do it together. If I don't know the answer to something, I'm not going to make it up. I'm going to go find the answer, and that helps me learn also. So building part of that, the team was finding that common place with everybody and getting people to want to be on board with me and trust me well, Barb's going to find the answers out. And if I'm doing this, she's doing this, and we're all doing it like kind of together. And then that kind of went from there.
So that's a really good answer, actually, and that prompts a whole different
It
conversation.
didn't answer your question, I know, but that's what it made me think
No,
of.
I mean, it's not a bad answer. What I'm saying is it prompts a whole bunch of things. So, new listeners that are listening, that's a good thing to remember to do. But like seasoned people, sometimes we forget that. Like you just
Right.
said something, and I'm like, you know what? I think sometimes we get so caught up in having all the answers and making sure we look like we know what we're talking about and whatever. But maybe we miss that connection that you just talked about that was so important right there, where like, hey, listen, I'm just a few decisions in front of you, and if I don't have all the answers, I will find them, but I'm here with you. And maybe that's something we need to remember to lean back into as we're bringing new people in, so that we don't appear like, because I've always felt like, from my perspective, that one of my biggest complaints of success is that people think I could never do what you do, or I could never. Sometimes it's, and I want to be like, no, if I can do it, you can do it. And I really want them to feel like that. Like, I remember my very first party. I remember my first 10 parties. I remember being nervous. I remember getting my first new recruit. I remember feeling really stuck when I didn't know what to do to get recruits, or felt like I can hold parties, but I'm having a hard time recruiting. I remember all of those conversations. And so when a new person is talking to me, I go right back there in my brain. But I think that like sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the importance of knowing everything for everybody and being not in an arrogant way, just in a like, it's really important that I am like your leader and I help you. But like, what if we're missing sometimes that? Like, I mean, you just like, that was a little, I had a little baby epiphany of like, gosh, maybe sometimes we need to dial it back and not be so important and not be so unachievable. Because like a new consultant feels like they know nothing. A new manager feels like they know nothing, and they want to feel like you're right there with them.
Right. Even a new director, like depending on every time you do something, even a person who has 10 recruits and they've never had 10, or 11 recruits and they've never had 11.
It feels like it's hair on fire and they can't do it in there. And I always get a big kick out of new directors because they're just like, this is crazy. I'm like, it's fine. You'll do it for a month or two and it'll become normal and it won't feel like hair on fire. I promise. Like, it's just the new normal. But at first they just are like, I don't know what I don't know. And I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to know anything. We'll just keep doing what you're doing and you'll know more as you go. But I mean, I just think you just touched on something really important with your answer. And I think that like, that deserves respect, that memory, you know what I mean? In a good way. Like, I think I can learn from that. And, you know, I think we all can, that like, we got to remember that they don't need to feel like you know everything always. They need to just feel like you have their hand and we're going to do it together. And I'm just learning one step in front of you. I feel like that often with my leaders, with my directors, like, I don't know everything. I know what I know and I'll teach you what I know. And then as I learn, I'll teach you more, right? Like, I'm always learning one step in front of you. And then when I know more, I'll share more. But that was a good answer. Okay. So do you remember, or doesn't mean remember just in general, do you remember any challenges that you faced when you were recruiting people? Because there's going to be a lot of newbies that watch this and like, they'll say like, I can hold a Tupperware party, but I just don't know how to recruit. Like, do you remember facing challenges? And if so, what do you remember doing or saying or whatever that helped that?
So, and it's funny because really I feel a lot of the same things that I used to feel as a newbie, you know? Yeah. So it doesn't get so much easier. Like, it doesn't become, oh, I'm a seasoned person now, I recruit like so great. Like, I still have recruiting questions or wording help that I need. But some of the things that I found that help me are, I usually just ask people, oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So people get stuck in, hey, do you want to join Tupperware? And that's not the question that I go in with. I usually go in with, have you ever thought about doing what I do? And because they could have a totally different perception of what I do. Oh, you do, you know, XYZ and drive a free car and you go on trips and, you know, but I'm sitting here thinking running 5 parties a week and, you know, doing these things. And so if I turn around and said to somebody, have you ever thought about selling Tupperware? First of all, I don't know how to sell things. Okay, Tupperware sells itself. I just kind of give you my opinions on them when I'm doing a party.
Sure.
I'm almost like a reviewer, you know, a product reviewer or a brand representative or those kind of things, for lack of better terms. But I'm not out there selling. So that's not like one of the questions. And I think when we learn to ask questions that are more comfortable and resonate more in our soul, that it flows easier.
I think it's so important to, I think you're right, so important to be genuine with your questions. Even if it's if somebody's helped you with wording, you know, there's a way, like I think my favorite way to ask it, like I remember one of my favorite things to do is, you know, back in the home party days when somebody would come over to place their order and we'd be sitting there just talking. And it's the same digitally now when I do it either way. Or when even now when I'm in person talking to somebody, I'll say, have you ever thought about doing something like this? And the reason why I like to say something like this is because I like to start a conversation. And maybe they never thought about doing Tupperware, so they would just say no if I said Tupperware. Maybe to your point, they think what I do with Tupperware is something different than what I actually do, or they have a different perception of it, right?
Yes.
But when I say something like this, then I open up the door to a conversation of like, well, I thought about doing, Mary Kay once, or I thought about, or one time I sold Amway, or one time I sold,
Right.
and then I can speak to what they thought if they tried it, why it's different, why they might be good at this, So that but it's a personable, and then we can sit and have an actual conversation.
Right. 100%.
Yeah.
And then you've already put that little idea in the back of their head, and then no, I haven't really thought about it. Okay, well, how about we do a party for you, and then I'm going to ask her again, and I'm going to ask her again, and I'm going to ask her again.
Well, and you can say, so then you can watch me do it and see what you think, or let's run a party. You can see it, you can give it a try for 30 days. And if it's not of interest to you, I always say Tupperware is not for everybody, but it's for everybody to try.
Right.
You can try it. What's the worst that happens? You get some free Tupperware, make a little bit of money, and you move on, right?
Yes.
But the reality is, watch out, you might fall in love, because we're pretty fun.
Like I did.
Right? We're pretty fun.
Guilty.
Okay, so
I'm a party failure.
I mean, I'm always just like, I always say, watch out, we might change your life. Okay, so moving forward, how do you feel like your leadership style has evolved throughout your time with Tupperware? I mean, I know what I have seen in you, and I've watched you grow as a leader. I feel like I've watched you grow in lots of ways, like as a human, as a leader, as a person, as a whatever. But definitely, how do you feel like your leadership has evolved or gotten better, or from wherever you started to wherever you feel like now? What's your thoughts on that?
This is my first actual true leadership position. So my previous jobs, like the corporate world, I wasn't necessarily a boss or a manager or a leader by title.
Right. It's different.
Yeah, but I've been on softball teams. I've been in the military. I've been like the lead marcher, Yeah, exactly. And like on softball, you have a team captain, and so those kind of things just kind of helped my ground level. So growing into now, how do I do this with a bunch of people that don't know how to do something? Okay, let me put together a program to help them to keep that organized. Let me do a demonstration video on, a screen share on how to do something. So I've become more of a, let me show you how to do something. Let me hold your hand through it and do something. Leadership wise, I think that's one thing I've grown to do. I think I've also become a better listener
Well, I
potentially.
think like leaders, any leaders, people tend to listen to you more when they feel like you're doing it with them. Like, here, let's do this together. Let's try this together. Let me show you what I've found. Nobody wants to be left alone.
Right.
For sure.
Right. And that is something that I tell my people because I mean it. It's, you're not going to do this alone. I'm not going to, just abandon you on this. If you show up to do the work, I'm going to show up right next to you.
I think I've watched you go at the leadership with less fear. And I don't mean that like you were crazy afraid before. I just mean like I feel like you go, okay, so show me what I need to do and let's do that. Like versus I don't know what I'm doing. Like I feel like, and I don't mean like, I just mean like I feel like your approach has gotten as I've watched you grow. I feel like your approach has gotten stronger. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I would say confident too.
Yeah, 100%.
I would. I'm
confidence.
Yeah, I'm definitely more confident in some decisions, and I'm able to make some decisions better because maybe because I've been around for a little while and I know how things would probably be answered. I don't know how to say that.
I feel like once you've done it a few times, you can kind of be like, okay, I've done this. I know what happens. I know if you do this, A happens, and whatever. Leadership is something that is you work on and you grow in. Any leader. Nobody's born with a massive leadership. It's not really like that. Like you might be born with some skills that tend to be leadership type skills, but like nobody is born with all, like you learn by watching, you learn by emulating, you learn by failing, you learn by crashing and burning, you learn by getting yourself, by picking yourself back up and, making tomorrow a better day, like
Yeah, for
all of
sure.
those pieces are part of leadership. But I would say I definitely feel like I've seen your confidence grow. And that's one of the things about this business that I really love and always have loved is that it takes a piece of your personality, all of us, and then it blossoms it. And I watch
Right.
that happen with people, often I like to say confidence is contagious. And I feel
Yeah.
like this business makes confidence blossom, right?
Right.
In a
And
lot
I
of,
agree.
yeah.
I've also learned how to, I wouldn't say I was a bad listener, but I'm also learning how to listen to what type of person somebody is.
Oh yeah.
So, like, what motivates a specific person, or what their learning preference is, or sometimes my tough love is not going to go well with said person, and sometimes this person needs it. So I've paid more attention. I think I've learned to pay more attention to needs of people, maybe. I'm not really
That's
sure
a
what to call
really
that.
important leadership skill, and that's a learned one. Um,
Yeah.
is you have to learn what types of people are coming to you, and then how they're gonna, like, nobody speaks to not be heard. If I'm gonna talk, I want
Right.
you to hear me. If you're gonna talk, you want me to hear you. But if you need me to ask you about your dog first, and you need me to ask you how Greg's doing first, and you need me to ask you how something felt first before you can talk to me about something else, I'm going to learn that, and I'm going to ask those three questions first before I dive right into, so tell me about your business. Where somebody else
Right.
might feel like you're wasting my time with all these other questions, get to what the point of what you need. Like, and they're two totally different personality styles. And if you respond incorrectly to the wrong one, they don't hear you.
Right.
Right? And
Right. And
somebody
then
else,
I end up in tears, and I'm like, why does she not like me? And why did I hurt her feelings?
she
And
liked you fine. She just didn't want
I
to talk to
know.
the dog today, or whatever,
Right.
like, and it's really interesting. Like, that whole thing is a learning. I mean, I've spent years working on that, but it's very interesting and learning, like, this girl needs you to tell her she's pretty today before she can hear anything else you have to say, and I'm like, well, she's
Right.
pretty every day. Well, yeah, but you got to tell her every day, or whatever. Okay. So we'll
Right.
do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many different people that we come across in this business. We tend to attract people that are like us for the most part, but when you're in the leadership, you've got
Because you have to lead yourself
everybody's,
too, right?
yes. So I have to learn how, I've had to learn, and I'm still learning, and probably will fail somewhere sometime, but I'm still going to pick myself up and do it. But all these different people have so many different personalities, and we all have baggage and
Yes, we do.
traumas and triggers and all the things. So learning how to navigate through some of those things, I think, has been challenging, but it's
But
also
rewarding.
exciting
It's
because
rewarding.
when you have that breakthrough, it's like, yes,
She heard me.
yes, she gets it. She feels better.
It's rewarding, I think, to like you said, to get to that breakthrough and get through where you feel like you're really making it through with somebody and you're helping them get through whatever their barrier is, right?
Yes.
Just having a conversation with somebody the other day about, like, I like to do the DISC, so the C personalities. And the C personalities love details, and they're wonderful to have around when you're like, when does this challenge end? Or what was that on sale for? Or how much? They'll, like, literally rip it out of their purse and pull out the flyer and read you the fine print. That my personality, it doesn't read the fine print. It doesn't mean I don't care. I like details. I just like the details I like. They
Right.
like all the details. Like, every detail there could possibly be, they like them
I
all.
don't have enough room up here for all that.
I just don't care. I'm busy doing other things, right? Like, I'll get to it when I get to it. Like, I don't care enough. I'll read that detail if I end up needing it specifically for something. But until then, I got other things to do. But
Right.
that personality style is wonderful to have around for them. For that personality style can also come across as a corrector, and nobody likes a corrector. So they will, because they get nitpicky and answer and correct everybody, thinking they're being helpful, but can really come across as a corrector. And so when I'm coaching them, I have to sometimes be like, well, so here's the deal. Every time you come into that chat and you correct somebody, you make them feel like they're lesser, and you think you're helping and making sure they have right information, but you're coming across as a corrector. Nobody likes a corrector, and then they're
Right.
like, oh, like, but that personality style doesn't know that. They think they're helping. And I'm like, it's okay to help. Just be careful, in your, so there's a real positive to that side of it. And then there's a side where you have to be careful. And I think that's with any personality, right? Like, I may get to the point kind of girl, like, tell me the meat and potatoes. And then once we've conquered what we need to conquer, we can sit and talk about your dog and your this and your that. I don't care. Like, it's fun. But I come straight on, and that's the way to my heart, is to come straight at me with a problem and come straight. Don't beat around the bush, because I can see you beating around the bush and it gets frustrating. I'm like, just say it. What is it?
Right. Well, that girl, that person that you were speaking to, teaching them about, you're coming in as a corrector. I'm just excited because now that she had that aha, you've just changed her also.
Right.
So her trajectory as a leader,
Right.
and the other thing is being coachable. Like,
Oh yes.
I have to be open and willing to listen to you or to learn from a podcast or something of of trustworthiness. So
I
that's
think
another.
we're either learning or we're dying. And so
Yeah.
I don't want to, I'm like, I'm not here to die. I'm here to learn. Right. Like, so I want to always be growing and learning and like growing and doing things. And so, but that requires self-assessment, and that requires
Right.
being coachable, and that requires, when somebody has some feedback, not getting defensive and digging your heels in and being unkind or explaining why you were right or going and showing screenshots to prove that you're always right or whatever. It's listening and self-assessing and saying, how could I be better?
And
You
that
know,
takes somebody who's emotionally mature to be able to self assess like that. And
it's
sometimes
hard.
that comes over time
Right.
learning
And it doesn't always
that
feel good, right?
no.
Learning doesn't always feel good, right? Growing doesn't always feel good, but
But it does looking back at it.
oh, but when you look back and you see how you've, like, I will sometimes be like, how, and I would say I coach to always, the first response when somebody comes to you with this hurt or this whatever should never be, well, I didn't do that or I didn't mean that. I think the first response should always be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I would never want to hurt you. How can I be better? How could I do that better next time so that I don't hurt you? Because my intent, I didn't mean that. What I meant was, right? Versus the first response that does not have any self-assessment of, well, I didn't mean that, so, you shouldn't have got your feelings hurt. Well,
And you
okay,
should just get over it. I didn't mean it.
right. Like, and the reality is, maybe they should get over it. Maybe you didn't mean it, but the reality is they did get hurt, and they're trying to be open and honest and voice it with you. And if you are a person who can't receive it ever, you're not going to grow. You're not going to become a good leader, right?
Right.
And like I said, leadership is hard, and it's not. It's very rewarding and wonderful, and you can make a lot of amazing relationships, and you can grow who you are as a person and all of the things. But all of that comes at a beautiful cost too,
It does.
of learning, right? But it's good. I mean, it's a wonderful journey of life, because the reality is, most things you're gonna learn, you're gonna have the lessons. You're gonna have the lessons regardless of whether you learn or not. And the thing is, when you don't learn, you're doomed to repeat it,
I was
right?
just thinking that, yeah, you're just going to keep doing it again and again and again. How many times do you need to bump your head into the wall till you realize the wall is there?
It's like, literally, that's a life thing. This isn't even about this business, but like, life has a funny way of throwing the lesson at you over and over and over, like you're slamming your head into a brick wall, and it's like, until you learn this, you're gonna keep getting this thrown at you. So, yeah, for those that are watching, I encourage you to lean into asking this question: how could I be
Put
better?
some bubble wrap on your head.
You'll be all right. You'll be all right. How could I be? How could I have done this better? Or how could I?
Yeah.
How can we be? I mean, I was just sitting with one of the leaders the other day, and we were talking about something that we ran, and I said, well, it looks like we need to learn. And I was talking, we being collectively me, and we'd run something, and I'm like, we need to learn here. How can we do this better? This didn't work, or this didn't, our intent was this and it didn't happen. So like, how can we be better? And I think if you get good at that uncomfortable question, the world starts getting better. It gets easier, honestly, right? Because you adjust, right? Anyway,
Yeah, because
okay,
the
good.
road is like it's snow plowed. You're not climbing through the snow. The road has been snow plowed now that you
Right.
know.
But it's not snow plowed if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, right?
Right.
And expecting different results, right?
That's the definition of insanity if you
It
didn't
is
know.
100%. Okay, so next question for fun is, what do you consider to be the most important factor in building a successful team in Tupperware?
Um, Glass half full, positiveness, a good mindset. Uh, what? Say it again.
What do you feel like, what do you consider to be the most important factor in building a successful team in Tupperware?
Your relationships with your team and trust, good leadership, make everybody feel special and important.
Recognition is
Just,
free. And
yeah.
and how I always say, like, people don't necessarily remember what you said, but they remember how you left them and how you made them feel. And
Yes.
I think you're correct in that make people feel special. And
Yeah. One thing that you've taught me over time was um, we like to redirect with reward versus punishment. Like, and you
one
can
of the
elaborate on that if you want to.
right, one of
But
the
I do,
best.
I remember that, but you can elaborate on that because I don't know that I could explain it right, but that has resonated with me.
Well, you can be incentive based or penalty based, right?
Right.
And both of those are trying to steer somebody. And I think the general population, whatever you want to say it is, most people tend to react better to incentive based versus penalty based.
Yes.
Make me want to go
Or
do something.
compliments versus making them feel bad or shaming them or you did that wrong or,
Yeah,
you know.
it's like a kid when you want them to sit down. Instead of saying sit down, you can say, "Would you like to sit here or here?"
Because
Right?
either way, you're going to sit.
Right, but they feel like they have a choice and they feel happy to do it, right? I mean, I think all of that kind of stuff, and that's some of that stuff is I think intentional as you learn it too. Like I read a book once called I think it was How Full Is Your Bucket or something like that, and it was about how you phrase things and how I could walk out and say, gosh, there's a big spot. My son's washing his car, and I could say, like, there's a big spot right here you missed. Okay, I just made him feel crummy because he missed a spot. I'm like, you did such a good job, washing the car. It's so sparkly. Oh, there's one little spot that, like, let's just like, we can make this one a little extra sparkly right here. But I didn't make him feel bad with that. I said,
Right.
like, you did so great. And like one of those comments filled his bucket. One of them took from his bucket. So you're either filling
Yes.
somebody's bucket or you're taking from their bucket, right? And I think
Yes.
in this business in general, but I think in life, a lot of these lessons are business slash life. Do you want somebody to come up to you and be like, you left a big spot on the car? Or you did such a good job making this car sparkle. It looks so good. Oh, there's one little spot right here. Let's make it extra sparkly. I think it needs a little extra, which one
Yeah.
goes there? Like,
But sometimes we go through life so fast and don't learn that lesson. And that's, but if I think if we self assess, if we learn it early, if we're always trying to grow, if we're reading books, if we're, listening, if we're coach, all those kind of things that have to fall into place that just make you a better human.
I concur. All right. So, next question is, what do you feel like is the biggest challenge you faced in your Tupperware career, and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge I face in this career is
I don't know what your answer is. I'm just curious. It's a fun
I
list of
don't, I
questions.
mean, sometimes it's getting bored doing the same thing over and over, but then I can just wait it out and then we've got a new product that comes out, or I've got a new host that lights my fire, or I have a new recruit or teammate that energizes me again. So sometimes, but in those little windows of waiting for something new is usually short.
Yeah. I would say like, because even a party isn't the same. You could run a party, but it's different people and different interactions and different like, so the same is actually kind of different even in it,
Right.
you know? Or I got a new
Exactly.
recruit. It's a totally different person. So while it's the same thing, it's not the same thing, right?
Right. That's what I mean. Like, so if you wait long enough and recognize the difference, it's not really the same. But I think that's maybe,
Learn,
maybe one of the
maybe your
challenges.
answer to that then is maybe learning to be consistent. And so not, because you recognize that, oh, if I feel bored today, I just do consistent behavior and it won't be bored for very long, right? Or
Yes.
yeah, I think consistency is probably the answer to that. Okay.
All right.
So
Thanks.
next question would be, what advice would you give someone who's just starting out in the Tupperware business, especially in a leadership role? What would you tell them?
I would I would definitely remind people to show up every day, um, every day, because our teams are on all different schedules. So it's not like you can just not show up for. I mean, I hate to say you can't take a vacation, which I mean, obviously you can, but you have to show up every day. If you want to get paid like it's a full time job as a leader, you need to work it like it's a full time job. You can't really expect to just show up for 30 minutes a day and make what you were making at a corporate job. And if that's what you are expecting, then you're going to be disappointed. So showing up, I think, is super important. Checking in on people, and trying to grow as a leader. And you're like, I still get coached. I still ask for help, and I think we all should. You know,
100%.
so
I just learned
yeah.
something new today on a call I was on. I was like, ooh, that's a good idea. I'm going to implement that for Rock On. I mean, I'm always like, even if it's like not my favorite trainer or I'm like, whatever, I'm always listening. Is there some piece of something I can take from this and build something with it? Or is there, I love to learn. I love like, show me something new, show me something I haven't thought of. Help me think about something in a way I haven't thought of it before.
Right.
And
And
I'm,
for like new leaders, I would just really encourage them to listen, and try and find their way, their little, because they don't have to mimic everybody, they still have to be themselves and
correct.
find themselves in there.
And they don't
But
have to
it's
do every single
okay.
thing. They don't have to do every
Yeah.
single thing all at once, right?
Right. It's okay to just like lean on me for your first little bit for X, Y, and Z, but on A, B, and C, test out your, you know, oats.
Yep.
But
I
you don't
think
have to do
there.
everything by yourself, just like this entire business. You don't have to do everything ever by yourself.
Right. I take the best and leave the rest, right? Like so
Yeah.
figure out what it is. All right, so last question, and this one's just kind of fun because you did a great job answering all the questions. And
A plus.
so A plus. So Barbara Ross, tell me what Barbara Rossi likes to do outside of work to recharge and keep her energy level high.
Oh, I like to get world peace.
World
No, I'm
peace.
kidding. Like Miss Congeniality. World
I'm like,
peace, please.
what do you do for fun? World peace.
So I like to go to the local dog shelter here, and they have a program where you can basically check an animal out for an hour or for 2 hours or for the weekend. So I go and I take a dog, I don't know, maybe once a month, twice a month. But we go up to the coffee shop and we get a pup cup, and I let him hang out with, different people. And sometimes they get adopted, like when I'm out with them, and sometimes not. But the reason I love the program because I can't be a foster fail because I already have my dog here and I can't adopt another dog. But what I can do is that. And that makes the dog mentally get out of that cage for just a little bit and be a little less insane. So when somebody comes to potentially adopt them, because there will be adopters. So when somebody comes to adopt them, they're not a crazy mess. And somebody's like, "Ooh, I can't adopt that dog." So
That
I
dog's
feel
going
like,
crazy. Yes.
"Ooh, this was crazy." Well, no, he just hasn't been out of the kennel in like 6 months, or
And I've
whatever.
been to a dog shelter too. I told Peyton we were there looking at dogs few months ago, and I was like, this feels like a dog jail. And like some of these
Right. It
dogs were
is.
like barking and like they just looked like, please just
They're
take me
just
out of
sad.
here. And I was like, oh, this is kind of making me sad. Like I mean, we were just looking at shelter dogs, and I was just
Mhm.
like, gosh, like it's not supposed to be sad. They're there to like get adopted, but also it did felt a little bit like a doggy jail. Like I was like,
Yeah, and it kind of that's how they have to run it. They do the best jobs that they can there, But yeah, so that's what I do for fun.
I think that's fun. What else do you do?
Makes me
Anything else
feel
fun?
good.
Anything else fun?
I get my nails done.
Me too.
I have a favorite restaurant that I take my dog to, and we go sit outside and eat. Yeah,
I
I
think
like
those are,
traveling
I think
sometimes.
one of the things I love about this business is the freedom that comes with it. And like you said, we show up every day, but how we show up is different, and we get to do it
Yeah,
on our own terms. So I personally have always said that I show up on vacation, not 24/7 because I'm on vacation, but I show up somewhat so that I can take more vacations. So
yeah,
like if I don't just completely abandon my business and peace out for a week or two and do nothing, then I can continue to take vacations and I don't have to just take one 7-day vacation because that's all I have, like and for you, you can be working your business and you could go take a dog to a park if you wanted for a little while and then you could take a break and do this or that. I mean, I think we all have our things
yeah,
and I think that's one of the things that makes this business great is the independence of it and what each one of us likes and thinks is fun and but yet still be around for our business here and there and like maybe you're not at home working in front of your computer at that second, but you could be somewhere where you can answer somebody's question if you needed to and be present, right?
yeah.
It's part of living
Yeah, I
that.
tell people like I have a girl in Hawaii on my team, and so they're a 6 hour difference. And I tell her, I'm like, message me anytime because my phone is on silent at night. If I'm sleeping, you're not going to wake me up.
Right.
The only person
And
that
let's
can
be
wake me
real.
up is my mom or my husband or my daughter.
Let's be
Because,
real. If you're a grown up, in most cases, you can set the notifications on your phone. If you're going to sleep next to your phone, you should have it set so that it doesn't wake you up. I always say people message me when they can. I respond when I can. It just is what
yeah,
it is, right?
exactly. And so that's what I tell her. I'm like, if I can't answer you, I won't. And if I can, I will. Who knows if I get up and go to the bathroom? Who knows if I have insomnia for, the night? But there's no reason that we can't just communicate when we can communicate. So it's another thing that we can do, like showing up.
Yep, I love it. I'm a big proponent of that. And I like to do fun things like when I travel, I'll grab a couple treasures and say like, okay, the top sales of the few days that I'm gone or something, we're going to get in these fun treasures from wherever I traveled or like, I think there's fun ways to incorporate whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, I remember seeing you I think it was for the dog shelter or something like that. You did some sort of like fundraiser things or like a little packets or I was really cute. I made little like there was some Tupperware that had little dog prints on it or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I thought it was cute. And you were incorporating something you love into your business too. And I think that's like we all have the ability to do that at any level, consultant through directors and whatever. But
Yep. So yeah, there was a couple of different things that I did. Like it was donate $5 and it'll go toward a bag of food. Or every order that you place is my commissions going toward food, and I'll go and buy like big bags of food and bring them with me. It's like, housewarming gift. You bring something to somebody's house when you go. I'm like, okay, I'm going to the dog's house. Let me bring them all some food.
right.
But yeah, I try and do little things like that. I do like doing water bottles for the school kids.
I think it gives us I mean, it allows us to use our business, but also do some good in the world, and that's fun too.
Yeah.
And like anytime that we can show up and do some good in the world, I think the world could use more light and use more sunshine and use more sparkle, right? Use more
Yes,
confident people.
100%.
So, all right, well, thank you again for spending some time with me today on TuppTalk. And it was fun to talk with you. And I hope whoever's watching this really takes a minute and absorbs it in because there was some good information here today. And much success as you continue on in this business, right?
Thank you.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.